What is up, everyone? This is your host, Eric Holtzman, and welcome to the Mindful Motion Podcast. What's up, everybody? I am here with Dafne Hernandez. Dafne is a semi-professional bodybuilder, and she performs in the wellness physique category now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Maybe you can shed light on what that is a little bit later in here. Dafne is a wife, a mother, and works for a state-of-the-art facility called BodyMetRx, or BodyMetRx to make it easier. And this place is really about taking detailed biomarkers such as body fat, lean mass, resting metabolic rate, VO2 max, which is essentially the volume of oxygen that you consume. Gives you a lot of insights on, well, your overall cardio fitness and ability to burn fat at different levels. And then this type of testing is really helpful for customizing someone's exercise process and able to track their progress more objectively with clear data. And Dafne is also an avid exerciser. In the last 2 years, she's really fallen in love with the process of bodybuilding and has transformed her physique. We also have in the background, to answer some detailed questions about BodyMetRx, Dena Clinton, the manager of BodyMetRx. Did I say that right? Dena or Dana?
BodyMetrics. It's Dena, and it's BodyMetrics. It's like a play on words, right? Like we're measuring your body, so the metrics of your body, but the RX, we're giving you a prescription, setting some goals on how to achieve that.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for that clarification. So basically, we're just here to discuss a little bit about Dafne's experience into the fitness world, her development into the bodybuilding space, how she's been able to transform her body, and then go over some strategies and tactics that's worked for her, mainly thinking about how to lose body fat, build muscle, and transform physiques to look, well, ultimately sexier and leaner. And we all want some of that stuff. So just to kick this off, Dafne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into fitness and what motivated you to get into bodybuilding?
Well, my fitness journey starts since I was in high school. I've always loved fitness. I've always been a fitness enthusiast. I used to be a runner. I was a great runner. I was asked to join the cross country, but because it was so far from home, I needed to be bused, and my parents were like, no. But from there, I always tried to keep myself fit. My sister was actually the one who took me to a gym for the first time, and she's my little sister. She's the one who showed me around, taught me about weight training. And then from there on, I just tried to implement that in my daily life. But I guess my mentality was different back then. Back then, my mindset was like being skinny, hardly eating. And not until I hired my coach did that mindset change. And he was the one who encouraged me to start bodybuilding.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned your coach. Was his name Johnny Swole, right?
Yeah, his Insta name is Johnny Swole. His name is Johnny Jimenez.
Okay. Well, that's a fitting name for that profession. What motivated you to dabble or get into bodybuilding? How'd you like fall in love with that whole thing?
Well, like I said, he was the main reason that I joined or started doing bodybuilding. I first reached out to him honestly simply because I wanted to. It was in the beginning, it was more for vanity purposes. I wanted to just look good, and I wasn't really thinking about like hypertrophy or macros or anything. I didn't even know about macros. I didn't know that existed, what that was. And he educated me with all that. I thought that going to the gym was pretty much just walking in, stepping on a treadmill, and going home and probably eating salads. He was the one who brought light into my fitness and educated me. And I would say that because I was so in love with fitness and he saw my drive, my hunger, my passion, my willpower, I never complained about what he gave me to eat or told me to eat. I would show up at 5 a.m. to work out with him. That he was the one who implemented that idea, that seed, and said, you should maybe consider, going for a competition, doing a show. It was sort of frowned upon at home. It wasn't like a idea that was that took right away. Took a little bit of convincing, but once I got the yes, I went full throttle, and I loved it.
What is it about like bodybuilding that you love so much?
I think it's the challenge, like not just the challenge, but like I like the thrive. I like the the way that you can implement all these simple tactics of macros and the way of eating and how to exercise, and implementing all that in a package, and then being able to transform your body. That to me was I was just in awe, because again, my mentality was like a child when it came to fitness. It was just run and hardly eat. So when I was educated with that, I was wowed. And I have met so many women that they 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 do the same thing now. They're probably older than me or just the same as age as me, and they're scared to walk into the gym because all they do is go into a treadmill and go home. So knowing that I can bring light to that, and kind of like be a motivation as well, that's something that I enjoy. And the fact that it's not easy, it gives me a goal. So yeah, and the
Yeah,
hard work I put in.
it's right. I mean, it's definitely not easy doing bodybuilding type training. It's like almost a job in a way.
Yes.
What keeps you motivated to keep coming back to those like intense styles of training and the type of commitment it takes to like get ready for, a show? What motivates you to do that?
I think it's that adrenaline, the drive, the fact that it pushes me to to get out of my comfort zone. Because even though I've done it twice before, each time is just as hard.
Mm,
And that that just keeps bringing, like, I remember when I first did my first show, my trainer said there will be two different kinds of people. One that will do a competition and say, I'm never doing this again, this is crazy. And another one that it's like, wow, the adrenaline, that feel that you get, the hard work that you put in, and then you get to showcase whether you get a medal or not. you know that is what drives me. And also I think that the message I send out, not just to the public but at home, it's another
mm,
reason why I do it. At home, I'm the strong parent. I'm the one who brings I'm you know I educate my kids about the healthy eating, about exercise. I'm not sure if I've mentioned before, but like, my husband has an underlying condition, and he's totally opposite from me. His health is deteriorating. He doesn't eat well. He doesn't exercise. So I bring that balance in my home, and that's what also keeps me wanting to do it, wanting to,
mm,
like, to set a goal again for myself and show my kids, like, I can do it. I'm 42. You can do it at
mm.
20.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a few factors motivating you, which is probably helpful. I mean, the adversity that you have to face to overcome the challenges in the gym, plus being a good role model for your kids, all those things are pretty powerful things to keep you coming back. So, how would you say your life's changed since you taken on the bodybuilding training process and started exercising more intensely and more frequently?
Well, I feel like I'm more confident. I feel stronger. Um, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. During cutting season, I am more irritable. My husband probably tends to run errands so he could stay away. But I just feel, I feel better. I feel like I'm doing something to show again my family that it's a lifestyle, it's a way of life. I just, it just makes me feel whole. It's part of my life. I've made it part of my life.
Yeah, it's almost like, in a way, part of your identity now.
It is.
When you first started out, there needs to be a big commitment to doing this style of training. When you started out, how did you keep yourself accountable each week?
Well, it did help that I made time to work out for my workouts, and I created a routine. I made it into a habit, implemented exercise as a lifestyle into my daily regimen. That really helped. Like, um, I'm a planner. I don't just get up and say, nah, like what time should I go to work out today? I strategize my day, and it works for me to be able to know, okay, I have to take my daughter to school, and then by this time I'm gonna be back, and then I gotta go and maybe possibly go do my cardio, then I gotta run errands, and I'm gonna be back and do my, I don't know, leg day today. I even set my week like that. I say what days I'm gonna do legs, what days I'm gonna do arms. That helps me to be prepared. Others aren't like that, and I feel like that could be a downfall sometimes, because if you're not prepared, if you don't put it in motion or write it down or as a goal, then most likely you won't make it into the gym.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. It's easy to get lost in the day to day and run out of time, and then that happens day in, day out, and you just all of a sudden you're not working out the whole week. Seems to be a common issue. So you're suggesting prioritize
Preparation.
it and prepare.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Prepare and
um
make time for it.
so so I do want to touch base on this the testing stuff that you utilize and the body metrics where you work. Service went out. Let's
I'm
sorry
sorry.
everybody. It's
It's
okay.
okay.
All right. So just curious, like how do you incorporate body metrics testing into your training to track your progress?
Well, first of all, I definitely jump on that body composition. I'm always curious to know whether I'm not losing any muscle and if I am losing body fat percentage, because when I'm on prep, that's the main goal. Um, it could be a little bit of a mind, your mind could go crazy when you just, step on that scale at home and it only
Mm,
has one number, but that
mhm,
number could represent many things. It could be, if you lost 5 pounds, did you lose 5 pounds of fat mass or did you lose 5 pounds of muscle? Or
mm,
if you gained, especially women, we see 2 pounds go up and we're already like, oh my god, like I don't understand why. But 2 pounds, that could possibly be muscle with water weight,
mhm,
so it's good to be able to have access to a test like that where I can track my muscle mass and my body percentage and body fat, body mass as well. And what I like about this body composition that we have here is that it doesn't just stop there. It also tells you your cell health. It gives you your visceral fat. It gives you whether your hydration needs work, water, which is very important because our muscle is 70% water. Inflammation, which can be caused by lack of sleep, stress, injury, maybe overworking your body at the gym. Um, so I definitely keep track of my body composition when I am on prep, even when I'm off prep. But I tend to be to check on it more when I'm trying to cut, because obviously when you're trying to cut and lose body fat, it's inevitable to sort of lose a little bit of muscle in there. So you have to be careful and adjust your macros so you don't
mm.
lose that amount of muscle that you work so hard on off season. And then we also
Yeah.
have the 3D test. Um, the The 3D test pretty much just measures your inches lost. It's not going to tell you whether you're losing muscle or fat. It's just telling you how many inches you have lost from your chest, your abdominal part of your hips, your legs, your arms. And obviously, with that
This is the
means leaning out.
3D.
The 3D scan.
That's the 3D bodies. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a
So
3D
that's just
body scan.
literally checking your girth.
Just,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you're doing the body composition test for body fat percentage and lean mass, you mentioned this isn't a DEXA scan. How is it different than a DEXA scan? Maybe Dena could
Dina, could you
mention with
chime
that,
in?
because I've only.
Yeah, we do get people asking about the DEXA. It's a little bit more popular, I guess. It's similar in the fact that it is medical grade equipment. Ours is called a SECA, SECA. It's medical grade equipment. Typically only hospitals or universities have access to something of this level just because it's a very big and expensive piece of machine. So the difference is DEXA uses X-ray and radiation to do their testing, and they do a lot of bone density things, which depends on your clientele. A lot of our clients aren't necessarily interested in their bone density. They're more interested in how much muscle and fat they have. The SECA uses BIA, bioelectric impedance analysis, to perform the test. So it sends a small, mild electrical current through your body, and the way it impedes off of different fat and muscle cells brings it back into the machine, does an equation based off of your age, weight, and height, and all those things, and then it computes all the data. So it's less harmful, actually, so you're not being exposed to radiation. So it's typically more safe, and it's also been compared to, as far as the accuracy, it's been compared to studies of MRIs, and MRIs are known to be the most accurate in understanding muscle and knowing muscle. So when it comes to your muscle mass specifically, the SECA is going to be actually much more accurate than the DEXA. When it comes to body fat percentage, they're pretty similar, but ours kind of takes the cake when it comes to muscle, which is super important.
What she said.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong too? Because I've always been told, and I always hear that hydrostatic weighing is the most accurate way to determine body fat. Is that not the case anymore?
Right. So that actually, it's kind of old science. It used to be the gold standard, but new studies have found that there's a lot of inaccuracies with that because it can depend on the water temperature. Actually, can have a margin of error. Also, the air expressed out of your lungs makes a big difference. If you didn't do it the right way and you still have air in your lungs, that displacement of the water can be inaccurate. And they do typically need to take 3 dunks, and they give you the average of the 3 dunks. So
it takes a while.
There's a lot of variability. And, I feel like a lot of our clientele, we're probably 60-40 women, so a little bit more women. And I've done a hydrostatic weighing before too. And it's a little bit intimidating, not going to lie, to have to get into a bathing suit and be submerged underwater. It's more lengthy. It's usually more costly. So while they're all tools, right? A DEXA, a hydrostatic, an in-body, a SECA, they're all tools. There's going to be a margin of error in all the things because that's just how it is. But ours, the SECA that we have here is minimally invasive. It's fairly easy. The only thing you need to take off is your socks and shoes. And if you have any metal on your hands or fingers, like a watch or a ring. And it's fairly quick too. The whole test itself is 90 seconds total. So we usually allow for a lengthy appointment after that to go over your results, but the actual testing itself is fairly fast.
Is it like an in-body where you're holding something and standing on a scale in a way?
Yes, it's very similar to an in-body. In-body also uses BIA analysis as well. So it's very similar. It's just more expensive piece of machinery and a little bit more accurate than the in-body. Also, in-body does lean muscle mass, which is different than skeletal muscle mass. So again, ours is kind of the gold standard with knowing your skeletal muscle mass, because lean muscle mass is basically anything that isn't fat. So it can actually include tissue, organs, blood, things like that. So that's the difference is lean muscle mass versus skeletal muscle mass.
Is it the case that if you're using electrical is it right to say electrical impedance? Is that the
Yes.
accurate way of saying it? When
Uh-huh.
you're okay. When you're using that, I've heard many times that if you say down a gallon of water before it, your numbers are all over the charts. Do you have to instruct people not to drink too much water or something like that?
Absolutely correct. And that's why there's, there's scales out there that are affordable for your home that are getting very popular, where it does do a body fat percentage and muscle calculation in your own home. However, there's a lot of variables, and water plays a huge role in that. So water and exercise. If you go do an exercise and you come back and weigh in, your numbers will be different as well. So here at BodyMetRx, we request that you do very similar testing times. So always test in the morning or always test in the afternoon. And we have a pre-testing protocol that you need to follow so you can be more accurate. So that's a fast of 2 hours, no food, no water for 2 hours, no exercise, no caffeine. All of these are important so that we can get as accurate measurements as possible.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, that's a detail that maybe is often forgotten, which would kind of ruin your data set.
Right. Yeah. We can throw it off. We don't want that.
Exactly. We got to be in control of the variables as best we can, because there are many. I know that you guys mentioned, or Dafne mentioned, you guys do VO2 testing. I never knew that there was anything but VO2 max, honestly. So I'm curious what the VO2, like the fat one, is about, what it's called, and
so we have like
how
a
does that work?
VO2 submax and a VO2 max. They're different prices. The submax is a little cheaper than the true max. If you're like a normal everyday kind of person, Joe Schmo off the street, just looking for a little bit more information on how to lose weight, the submax is fine. The test is ran similarly on the treadmill or a bicycle. We hook you up to a heart rate strap and an oxygen mask. We're measuring your oxygen consumption, your CO2 output. But the submax, we stop you at a certain point. So we start you off at a very slow walk. We gradually increase your speed and incline. And we stop you once your respiratory exchange ratio reaches 100% carb burning. Because the data there, we really want to just know at what heart rate your body specifically burns the most fat, so you can optimize your cardio in your fat burning zone. The other one, the VO2 max, the true max, is called our optimal athletic performance test. This is more for an elite athlete that is looking for specific training zones, that's looking for their specific VO2 max score to know exactly what it is. We have to follow a different protocol that's repeatable. So that way, a lot of these athletes who are doing it are looking to improve their overall VO2 max score. So if we follow the same protocol, we max them out. They don't stop when their respiratory exchange ratio reaches 100% carbs. They stop when they are truly maxed out. So they get to dictate that. Yes, I actually did one today. An older gentleman, actually, he was 61 years old. And he had over 50 VO2 max score, which is superior for his age.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he was really, really good shape. He's been running his whole life, decent muscle and stuff too. So you're never too old to test and get started,
right? Because every minute you're bumping it up, like every three speeds.
Yeah.
3 speeds every minute or so.
The optimal fat burning test is fairly easy to do, not too bad. It's less than a stress test. The optimal athletic performance test is a little bit rigorous. It's a little bit difficult. You got to have the right mindset to push yourself to the max, really.
You're underselling that.
Right. And the other one will give you an extrapolated VO2 max score. So it's basically a guesstimate. It's saying, hey, we're taking all this data. We're going to guess that if we were to max you out, this would be your heart rate, this would be your VO2, this would be your training zones. Again, keeping in mind that it's a guesstimate, whereas the other one's going to be true. There's a lot of information out there about training in your zone 2 training, zone 3 training. So it gives you a little bit more accuracy, and it's repeatable. So this is the difference between those two tests that we do offer.
If you could you clarify how can you determine that you're burning 100% carbs based on your CO2, like through the VO2 submax test? I think you said
right. Yep. So it goes off your respiratory exchange ratio. So we have a chart that shows your oxygen intake and your CO2 output, and depending upon the percentage that it is, that's what you're burning as far as carbs and fat. For example, if you're burning 0.86% oxygen, you're burning more carbs than fat. So the more oxygen you're burning, typically the more carbohydrates you're burning, because you're burning through that ATP. You're using all your energy sources. your oxygen consumption increases, you need more energy. So think of it as like a short exercise versus a really long exercise. For a 20-minute exercise, especially if it's bodybuilding where it's not super cardio based, you're not really consuming a whole bunch of oxygen. Now think about doing 20 minutes on the treadmill at a high speed. By the end of it, you're huffing and puffing, right? You're out of breath. So you're consuming a lot more oxygen. So typically it goes hand in hand with carbohydrates. We want to make sure our clients are eating enough carbohydrates to fuel their workouts the right way. If they're, I don't know why, but carbs are the devil right now. They have a bad rap. There's a lot of good carbs for you though. And I'm okay with someone having a low carb diet. That's fine. But we want to make sure you're at least eating enough to support the activity that you're doing, because otherwise you can compromise muscle stores and eat that lean muscle mass instead of eating the fat. And that's not what we want to happen. We want to make sure that you are burning fat and either maintaining or gaining muscle. And these tests are going to be imperative to know where your zones are, to make sure that you're doing it the right way, the safe way. The scale isn't always a good depiction of that. The scale can kind of go up and down, but what does that mean is happening intrinsically inside of us? So that's where we come in. We're the missing link between diet and exercise.
Yeah, that's a great one-liner. It is. I mean, unless you're in.
Yeah, I've told them about the metabolism.
Yeah,
test.
that's so that the resting metabolic rate, right?
Yes. So there's lots of like online calculators.
Yeah,
people
which
Google
I guess
what my RMR is, what my BMR is. But the test we have does measure your oxygen. You're breathing in a tube, so it's measuring your oxygen consumption and your CO2 depletion. The science behind that one is that humans burn about 5 calories for every liter of oxygen that you consume. And you consume oxygen based off of how much fat and muscle you have in your body. So we are testing your oxygen consumption. We have a machine called Cardio Coach. It spits it into an analytic equation, some analogs there, and then we determine what your resting metabolic rate is exactly. And oftentimes it's anywhere from 200 to 800 calories off of the online calculators that you can find. The more muscle you have, typically the higher your metabolism is going to be. For every 50 pounds, for every 1 pound of muscle, you're gaining 50 calories on your metabolism. So if you're looking for a way to improve your metabolism or speed it up, muscle is going to be key. Also, that one's just great for knowing how much you should be eating. Oftentimes we go to diet and we're eating, 1,200 or 1,500 calories when our resting metabolic rate comes in at 1,800. We're essentially starving our body, and we're hitting that plateau, and we're not understanding why, because we're exercising 4 or 5 times a week, we're eating healthy, what's going on? And that's kind of where we bring the science in, and we show them, listen, minimally you need to be intaking 1,800 calories. This is how much protein you should be intaking. This is how much carbs you should be intaking. So we kind of just take the guesswork out of all of that. And we do work with dietitians that can design custom meal plans and custom macros for our clients as well.
Okay, just one other question for you. Then I wanted to dive in with the kind of Dafne's whole workout approach. But it seems like all the objective information, knowing strategies is perfectly fine, but it seems like most people fail on the psychology behind eating and their habits. How do you guys help, if you do it all, with people with the psychology of their eating and making changes in their habitual behaviors?
That is a really, really great question. And honestly, we can give people the tools, but it is up to the individual to take those tools and use them. So obviously our job is to encourage them. Dafne and I both will physically write down the goals for them. Hey, in 6 weeks, I want you working out this many times. In 6 weeks, I want you sleeping better, drinking more. We try to write some very obtainable, achievable goals that don't seem too far away from them. And then our goal is we offer memberships here. So our goal is to bring them back in for additional testing to kind of keep them accountable, hold their hand through the process and be like, hey, I'm going to see you in 6 weeks. I'm going to ask you what you did. You're going to tell me, you have to give them a little bit of tough love sometimes and be like, how much alcohol did you drink? How much workouts did you do? And be a little truth teller. Because, we're humans and we're not perfect. We're going to have those days where we feel like crap and we eat like crap, or, we just didn't follow along. So I also like to let them know that it's not about being perfect. Not one person here is perfect and follows any plan perfectly to a T. but it is about consistency. If you are consistent over time, it will add up. It will. And so the point is to bring them back in, to show them, oh, look, your numbers went the right way. You're on the right journey. It's really hopefully a lifestyle change, not just a diet. It's not a 6-week diet. It's let's stop what you were doing. Let's become a different person. I don't know if you follow Lane Norton, BioLane. He often makes a reference of the fact that you have to become a different person. You're almost like your old self is dying, and you're creating this new version of yourself, because it's a lifestyle change now, and you're going to be a different person. You're going to have different habits, and over time, eventually those habits become second nature, and hopefully you stay on course. But also, we're human beings, and sometimes we get off course, and that's okay. Let's get you back on course.
Yeah, I think give people the space to make mistakes, because sometimes they make a mistake and it's like everything goes out the window. It's like, no, just
we don't have membership when we get to go home with them.
Yeah.
What are you eating?
You hit the nail on the head, Eric, with the whole F it mentality, right? Like, they've been doing good for a while, and then they have a weekend away, and they messed up, and they're like, F it, I'm just going to keep down this path.
But you know what also helps them? Our challenges. The challenges usually motivates them too. Like, there's a lot of clients that love the challenge. And they're like, oh, how many people in the challenge? And of course the winnings.
Right. Money is motivating. So we motivate them. We dangle the $1,000 carrot in front of them and try to get them. We usually do about 2 challenges a year to get people just
to get going, to like start the engines, and then that kind of like feeds them, and if they do good, then they're like, we tell them, okay, you did really good, so just keep going,
come back and see us.
The challenge ended here, but not at home.
Plus, who doesn't want to come back and see us?
Who wouldn't want to come back? No, I mean, that is a phenomenal way to get people going. I always worry about that kind of stuff, though, only because that if it's what kickstarts them, but maybe if it's not consistently, they're not going through challenges all the time, and they haven't fully adopted the principles, are they just going to rebound to where they were? I'm sure it's variance amongst how people are, but
there's pros and cons to it all, and at the end of the day, we're just hopefully here to help people. We have a passion to help people here change their lives for the better. And even if it's making small changes over time, there's that saying that little changes over time add up to big results. So hopefully just each time they come in, we educate them on something else that they can kind of grasp and take home. It's kind of a triage. They come in, you can't tell somebody 500 things to go change about themselves, right? You kind of have to take it one step at a time. So what's the most important thing you need to change? Exercise? You don't exercise at all? I like, if someone comes in, they don't exercise at all, which I don't think is your podcast listeners, but I would give them a very small goal of let's get you moving 2 times a week for 30 minutes. That's it. Like, that's better than nothing. And then the next time I see them, I'll give them another goal. I want you tracking and logging your food 3 times a week for the full day, or whatever it is. Like, the small changes, again, add up to big results, and giving somebody something that they can feel like is very, very achievable for them. That doesn't seem like I have to change 500 things about myself, and I don't think I can do that. It's a daunting task. Trying to simplify it. Like, so I always say, diet and exercise, we all know that we need to move more and eat less. It's a simple concept, but that doesn't make it easy, right? Just because it's a simple concept does not make it easy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business. You wouldn't be in business. Like, people need help because it's not an easy thing to do, especially with all the different information that's out there now, with these influencers giving wrong advice and the Google, there's just a barrage of information out there that we're not sure what's right and what's wrong, and who to follow and who to understand and all that. So
yeah, there is a lot of confusion for sure. But that's partly why we need coaches, and in some ways that's what you guys are, a coach for taking in information, data, tracking progress, offering suggestions and tactics. So that's brilliant. That kind of lends to the question I wanted to ask you, Dafne, is how do you find your coach? How do you pick your coach? Like, there's a lot of people, like we're saying, out there that seem to be experts. How do you navigate maybe some suggestions on the reasons you chose your guy? And
well, like, I'm gonna be honest. When I first hired my coach, again, my mentality in fitness was so different. So I was focused more on cardio and hardly eating, and I was I went into the yard. I found the biggest, baddest guy, and I feel like he's gonna train me. He knows what he's doing, you know. But along the way, um, my mentality changed in a way where, like, even though his physique told me that he knew what he was doing, and therefore it intrigued me, and I was like, okay, I want him to train me. Um, After training with him, his knowledge is what kept me going back. And to me, I feel like that's key, because I have friends in the fitness industry where they've switched coaches various times. Um, Maybe one, I don't know, didn't meet their requirements or their goals, or the knowledge wasn't enough. I'm not sure, but Jonathan, I have been with Jonathan. He has been my coach for 10 years.
Mm.
But my knowledge in fitness has evolved and has grown, and my mindset as well. So in the beginning, when I first hired him, it was just about, again, vanity. I just wanted to look good. I just wanted to lose weight, and I needed help. I was those girls that I would walk in, and I would step on a treadmill. I would do maybe a cycling class, but I didn't know what to do with the weights at all whatsoever. I don't know what reps was, what macro was, like I said earlier. So he educated me when it came to all that, and he encouraged me, motivated me. As a matter of fact, he became not only my coach, but he became my therapist. Like in our sessions, I feel like I've heard this a lot, where your body will look the way your mind feels. So like, if you're not mentally there, or meaning you're having I don't know, you're going through a hard time, stress, anything at home, that's gonna also be reflected in your body, And me being able to talk with him about all that, and he would adjust little things here, like, okay, if you can't come in at this time, get some rest, come later, or if you're feeling weak, carb up a little more, all that, everything, all that mattered to me.
Mm.
And to this day, again, he was the one who planted that little seed for me to do bodybuilding. He was the one. I really liked the fact that he believed in me, I guess, and I just kept going, and I'm still going. As a matter of fact,
Awesome.
I just came from working out with him.
Nice. Well, it's got to be an everyday thing, I imagine. So essentially, his personality, he embodies somebody who is fit, and you thought he
Yes.
knew what he was doing. And once you started working with him, you realized he was knowledgeable, but he also believed in you, and that kind of helped inspire you some as well. So that sounds like some really good markers to have in a coach.
Yeah, and the fact that he gave me that goal, even though he just suggested it, like, what do you think about doing a bikini competition? But for someone to suggest that to you, like, you're not gonna see maybe a person that is late to her workouts. It's always complaining about, like, her macros. It's like, I don't think you as a coach would be like, hey, you should do a competition. But the fact that he saw my drive, I guess, and that he thought I can do it, even just not letting him down was what gave me that drive. And honestly, with what he does, competitions as well, like, I think he does like 10 or 12 a year.
Wow, that's a lot.
But and the fact that I can relate to him and he can relate to me, he knows what it is to be on prep, to be on low carbs, to be on cutting stage, bulking stage, all that. Like that also, I also enjoy having him as my coach for those reasons.
So it sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, you didn't really lift weights until you met John. How long did it take you for you to kind of get to a place where you could even do a show? Was it like 6 months, 3 years? Like, what was the time frame?
From when I first started to get on stage?
First time.
Well, okay, so in the beginning, when I was training with him, again, I just couldn't let go of the cardio at first, and we would train hard, and he'd be like, "Stop it with the cardio so much, stop it!" Like, and I wouldn't listen at first, and then um, when I started listening in that aspect, I started seeing the changes. Um, he he pretty much just, like, I guess, took me under his wing, and I forgot what you asked me now.
Yeah, like how long did it? No problem. How long did it take you just when you
Oh,
started working with him to be show ready?
ooh. Okay, well, from the moment that we decided we were going to do a show, probably took me 3 months.
Okay, but you had been working with him for six
But I
months, a
have been
year.
working him because he didn't off the bat just say, "Hey, do a competition."
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
we were, working out. He was just like a coach, regular coach, and then he implemented that idea. And then I took it home. Obviously, asked my husband, "What do you think?" And that's another thing. My husband was not happy about that.
Mm,
My husband, and I love him, but my husband has a mentality of that a woman should be soft. Um, and I would laugh because I would tell him, "Well, I moisturize, I am soft." But meaning he doesn't think muscle
mm,
belongs in a woman, like the definition, right? Obviously, we all have muscle, but
mm,
so it took me a long time to break that barrier and kind of like convince him, like, I want to do it. This is what I want to do. Let me just try. Let me do it once. So once I got the okay, um, I did it, and then I just never went back. He thought I was gonna do it one time, and then next time I didn't ask for permission. Next time I just said, "Guess what? I'm gonna do another competition." He's like, "I thought it was just one time." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna do another one."
and still going.
And
So
still
what
going.
you mentioned your coach saying that you got to stop it with the cardio. What's that about? Like, what's the problem with cardio and looking leaner, and how is that kind of hindering your development?
So I think I just was overdoing the cardio.
Mm,
Um, I was doing hit workouts, plus I would go and do a 5 mile run, a steep 5 mile run, and I would time myself, try to always beat my time of, the day before or the weekend before. And I was like, people were starting to tell me that I looked sick, that I was too skinny. Um, and I look back at pictures, and I was really thin. I had no muscle. I just looked like a stick figure.
mm,
Um, but my mentality was that was what was fit. That was what back in the days was being fit. And he changed my mind, meaning, like, I started reading and listening to podcasts and seeing him and listening to him about building muscle, because muscle doesn't just um, help you. The more you build muscle, the more you lose body fat, right? The more, but it also straightens your cell health. I know if you're undergoing a surgery or a recovery of some sort, the person over here that's next to you, if he has more muscle than you, he probably will have a faster recovery than you.
mm.
So all that started to matter to me, instead of just the vanity side, just the being skinny and looking good, which was my mentality back then. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes underappreciated when you think
So
about longevity. And when we get older, we're all going to lose muscle. If you start with a bigger pool of muscle when you hit your 70s and you start losing it, you won't be frail
yeah,
and weak.
and now being older, I mean, I feel like if I knew back then what I knew now, I mean, that's one thing I would change. I would give. I know I still have so much to learn, but what I have learned now, I wish I could give my past my past me, and be like, stop that, do this, eat, you know, because like Dena said, nowadays we get a lot of clients that don't understand the reason, our reasoning of, you want to lose weight, you need to eat more carbs. They're like, what? How does that make sense? And we have to break it down to them. I didn't understand that either back then. So now when I'm gonna go hit the weights, I carb up beforehand and I feel more energetic, to the point where I don't even have to take a pre-workout. Like, a lot of people don't do that. We get a lot of clients here that they tell us that their routine is, they get up, they go work out, then they go to work, and they still haven't had their first meal. And it's like running a car on empty. It's like, you're gonna get stranded. You're gonna have that, like, that energy's not gonna be there. By the time you get home, you're gonna be irritable for your kids. You're not gonna have energy for, not even to hold a conversation with your husband. So, and I've been there on prep, so I know, like, it's not like you can't hold a conversation, you just don't want to. You just want to chill.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big thing right now, fasting and trying to push off meals, and maybe there is a place for that, but it might be mindlessly doing that might not serve people well, as you're saying, for their emotion and mood, but also you might lose muscle mass, and that might hurt your long-term goals of trying to get leaner, at least for the long term. You mentioned some things about prep, bulking, cutting. Maybe just for people that don't have any understanding of bodybuilding and what goes into it, can you, because it might shed some light on people, like, to hear how much you might eat or what you do when you're trying to build muscle versus when you're trying to cut. So what does a bulking phase look like for you when you're going to prepare for a show?
So bulking phase to me, I'm eating more calories, more carbs, complex carbs. In the cutting stage, I'm in a calorie deficit. I don't have the exact number of where I am in calories, because my coach has always implemented, he's more about carb cycling. He's not necessarily about counting calories. So I've done all 3 competitions without having to count calories. I just carb cycle. So in a bulking stage, I'm enjoying, like, bagels, wraps, whole wheat wraps, whole wheat pancakes. I could venture out a little more in my eating, but still watching my macros. I still have to have some macros in place, because I don't want to overdo it in the fats, and that's going to help build muscle, right? Bulky stage is when you eat more carbs to build the muscle. Once cutting stage comes in, then it's kind of like a sculpture. Like, it's a clay. This is your body that you build during bulking season, right? You grew that muscle, and as soon as cutting stage comes, you just start chipping away all that fat, trying to keep that muscle that you grew, that you build, right, with all that hard work. So a lot of people think that bulking stage is where you could pretty much just eat like crap, which it's not true. You still have to watch what you're eating. Yes, you could have a few meals here and there that you can't have while you're cutting, maybe enjoy a meal or two with your family that, say, when on prep or cutting, you really can't. But you still have to have some macros in place. Once cutting season starts, again, we're chipping away. We're lowering our carbs, lowering our fats a little bit, still maintaining that protein, because we need to feed our muscles, right? We need to make sure that we're intaking enough protein so that our muscle stays intact. So in cutting season, I eat very boring. Like right now, all it is, I'm eating, and again, I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm a born and raised vegetarian, so I don't have options like many that do eat meat. So right now I'm like egg whites, tofu, any sorts of veggies. I like asparagus because they're a natural diuretic. I like broccoli too, but that one kind of bloats me a little. But any kind of veggies, I'll chop up veggies, do my own concoction of like some stew or something of veggies. But it's nothing but egg whites, veggies, white rice. That's it. Like that's all I'm eating. When I'm at work, and this might seem a little extreme, but when I'm at work and I have clients and back to back to back and I don't have the time, I'll even bring a little glass like this that has my liquid egg whites measured already for my protein. I'll have some almonds in my pocket. I'll have some rice cakes for my complex carbs. And I'll put myself alarms or write it down on a paper, like next meal is at 3. As soon as that alarm hits, I'm chugging my egg whites, popping some almonds, biting on some my 2 rice cakes, and then wait for 3 hours later to do it again. You know, um, that's being an extremist, I guess. You know, I'm trying to like work around where I am if I'm busy. But yes, the difference between cutting and bulking is very different. I can't have those
Mm.
pancakes, those wraps, no
It's
hummus, no bagels with hummus and all that. That goes out the window.
yeah, it sounds very regimented, which can probably simplify it a little bit and make it easier to stay on top of it. And I think the underlying thing you're outlining here is that if you want to build muscle, under eating really makes it tough to do that. And if you want to cut, well, kind of goes the reverse way, right? But I imagine too, when you're bulking with eating excess calories, your training looks very different than when you're not eating as much trying to cut. So, what is the workouts? How do they vary based on when you're trying to build muscle and versus when you're trying to cut? Like, what types of differences in your exercise selection? Is there more cardio in one, less in another? Like, what's that look like for the bulking phase first?
Yes, so for bulking, I tend to try to go heavier. So my strategy, and I think for every bodybuilder, they try to work on progressive overload, meaning they're trying to like implement more weight while still keeping proper form, right? And time under tension, like that. Those are key. That's something that I always share with clients that come in here as well, that are probably even just starting off, or maybe they go to the gym and they don't really, they're just working out and that's it. They don't have like goals, or you know, those two things are very very important for building muscle on off season. Time under tension, meaning how slow you're going, wherever the tension is at. When you do a hip thrust and you're up and you're holding it, right? That's how long you're staying up there, going down slow, mind muscle connection, all that. It's I don't like to rush through my workouts. So during bulking season, that's what I'm working on. I'm trying to like build. I'm trying to add more weight while still keeping form. And in cutting stage, I do more of like deload workouts. So I up my reps, but I don't go as heavy,
Mm.
especially because in cutting stage, as we said, my carbs are lower. So my energy is not all there, you know, and I don't want to overwork my body, because then when you overwork your body, you suffer from inflammation. So you'll still get a good workout, you know, but your bulking stage was where you had to do the heavy, the building. Cutting stage is like take it down a notch, you know.
Mhm.
Now take off some of the weight, but up your reps and still focus on time under tension, still focus on mind muscle connection, you know, still squeeze, still pause, you know, pulse, you know, all that. So, and then
So what?
the cardio, I do less of the cardio in bulking stage, and more of the cardio in cutting stage, because you know it helps with leaning out. But one thing that I want to point out when it comes to the cardio, it is slow paced cardio, fat burning
Mhm.
cardio. So yeah, I'm not going full force, full throttle on the treadmill or on the stairmaster. It's just chill. If anything, I want to
Mm.
say treadmill, I don't bump it up higher than 3. 2.5.
Okay. Yeah, you're just using the cardio as a means to tap into fat burning. You're not using it for performance and like
Nope.
athletic endeavors of some kind, which might be valuable for different reasons, but not fitting
Yeah,
your
it's good for
goals necessarily.
cardiovascular health to do HIIT workouts and run and all that. We don't knock on that. We just say if that's what the kind of workout you like, make sure you carb up beforehand. Feed your body energy with food. Food is energy, pretty much.
A lot of we're almost done, but I did want to ask you because there's a lot of issues with bodybuilders, in particular with injuries because of how intensely they train. I'm sure you're probably training 2-3 hours a day sometimes. Is that about right?
Yes.
What do you do, if anything, to maybe mitigate the frequency and intensity of your training to prevent injury? Do you do any type of mobility work, ice baths, things like that?
I do. I think that stretching is a big thing. Stretching is very important. Once in a while, I have a sciatica flare up, and those are not, those hurt. And sometimes when it flares up, I can't lift as heavy. Sometimes even when I'm cutting or I'm on prep and I'm going light, it hurts. So I have to be very careful and keep mind of what my body is telling me. To me, that's key. Listen to your body. Like if your body needs rest, sleep, you know, and it goes back with setting time and being prepared. I always say, like, I try to be in bed. I try. Doesn't necessarily mean that I always hit the goal because I have kids and I have a husband. But I try my best to be in bed by 9:30, 10. And because I know that I have to wake up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or depending if I'm going to wake up at 5, then I go to sleep. I try to be in bed by 8:30. If I'm going to wake up at 7 or 8, which is, I never get to wake up at 8, like all that to me, it matters. Like you just have to calculate your day, your time, everything that goes in it, even the water. I've known that if I stop drinking my gallon of water, I have to stop by 7 p.m. so I won't have uninterrupted sleep. Everything is about tactic, If you want to drink your whole gallon of water a day and you're bad at it, start as soon as you wake up and force yourself to drink 16 ounces, or if you feel like carrying a whole water isn't enough, is not for you, then you know that however you get the 128 ounces, I believe that is equals a gallon, or divide it, or every 16 ounce water bottles, 8 of them equals a gallon. Divide it in your day. So to me, stretching, sleeping, all that to me, it's like listening to your body is what's going to help with preventing injury. For sure.
Yeah, it sounds.
BCAAs to recover.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like part of your success is heavily dependent on your ability to plan and stick towards what you set for yourself, and that's something to strive for. If people are struggling to stick with a regular exercise routine, is that what you suggest they do? Just make a plan and stick with it, or do you have other ideas or advice to help them stay motivated? And
I know that, like my husband, he's not a planner, so I know that not everyone is. I can send that message and be like, plan it, but it could be just as hard as saying, drink a gallon of water. Not everyone works the same way. My advice would be either hire a coach or start in the kitchen. Just start somewhere. Start in the kitchen with your nutrition. Throw out the fatties or the processed food. Make it a goal. Make a goal like, okay, for this whole month, no sodas. Start being aware of everything you put in your mouth. Checking the nutritional facts. I don't think people just put things in their cart and they don't realize what's in the back. So start being aware of that, making time to go to the gym and showing up. I know, like, so many, like, they just have a hard time just even showing up
Mm,
because they lack the motivation or the energy. So again, going back to one of the questions you asked me, like, go at the time of day that you have that energy. If it means waking up at 5 a.m. so you could be there at 6 a.m., be back by 7, take a shower, take the kids to school, and then be at work by 8:30, you got to plan it. It's doable. It's
mm,
doable. No, it's not going to be easy, but I know it's doable. So I would just say take one step at a time. Choose one change you're going to do, whether it's nutrition or hiring a coach. When I first hired my coach, I wasn't even working. And I would save my money here and there little by little when I get my allowance. and and instead of buying, you know, I don't know, like Starbucks every day, or getting my nails done every week, um, I would invest in myself.
mm,
And I hired my trainer, um, and we're still training together. So I would say invest in yourself, whether
mm.
it's here at BodyMetRx or getting a coach, right? Or buying a meal plan, or doing your research and figuring out what macros work best for you, or setting a goal. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would
think
just say.
that's
Mhm.
great advice. Investment into yourself, because that often is not first in mind. We're always looking out for other people, but got to take care of ourselves too. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to everybody. Is there a place, if someone wants to reach out and maybe chat with you about your experiences, like how could they find you on like social media?
Yes, my social media is she beasting. um, I don't know if there's a way you can put it there or not, but it's she SHE beasting, but the I is a one.
Mm, yeah, I think we can figure that out. BEAST1NG. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. All right, great. Well, I think we covered a lot. This was really awesome. Thank you for taking the time to jump on, and I really appreciate it. And you have a great rest of your week.
thank you. You
All right,
too.
all right, bye, everybody.
Bye.